Kelsey Mitchell didn't just drop a quote. She lit the fuse. Because what started as a candid, heartfelt interview quickly spiraled into something much bigger. A revelation. A red flag. A record scratch on the league's polished soundtrack. When Kelsey Mitchell opened her mouth and said the quiet part out loud, that maybe, just maybe, the WNBA set Caitlin Clark up, it wasn't just a spicy soundbite. It was a challenge, a warning, a crack in the foundation.
If you're here for the real story and not the filtered version, subscribe. And if you're sticking around for the next meltdown, you better definitely subscribe.
And the league? Oh, they felt it. Let's be honest. We've all been watching the Caitlin Clark saga unfold in real time. The media frenzy, the hot takes, the non-stop coverage, the wildly inconsistent officiating. She's the most talked about player in women's basketball, hell, all of basketball right now. And yet somehow, the WNBA still hasn't figured out how to handle her presence. Too hyped? Too polarizing? Too white? Too mainstream? Too fast? The discourse has been relentless. But no one, and I mean no one, saw it coming from inside the house. And yet, here comes Kelsey Mitchell. Calm, composed, with decades of earned respect in her voice. Not just defending Caitlin, but exposing something deeper. Something the league has tried to deny, deflect, and downplay, that this entire situation feels orchestrated. Let's not mince words. Kelsey said what a lot of people were thinking, but were too scared to say. That maybe Clark wasn't just being targeted on the court. Maybe she was being positioned off of it. Propped up, then left to fall. Propped up again. Rinse, repeat. A pawn in a PR game that the league still hasn't mastered. And the minute Kelsey said it, you could feel the air change. Because this wasn't coming from an analyst, or a commentator, or a salty ex-player with a podcast mic and a grudge. This was Kelsey Mitchell, Indiana's rock. A WNBA vet who's been to the trenches, who's seen every version of this league, good, bad, and shady. A player who earned her platform not through flash, but through consistency, toughness, and loyalty. And when she says Caitlin Clark is being mishandled, you stop, you listen, you question everything. Because Kelsey's not here to stir drama. She's not chasing clout. She's been holding this team down for years, before the cameras came, before the crowd showed up, before Caitlin Clark became a household name. And the most important part? She didn't sound bitter. She sounded protective. Protective of her teammate. Protective of her team. And maybe even protective of a league that keeps tripping over its own potential. Because here's what no one wants to admit. Caitlin Clark's rise is not just a good thing. It's a fragile thing. She's bringing eyes to the league, yes. But she's also bringing scrutiny, pressure, and a tidal wave of unrealistic expectations. And what's the league done in return? Left her to figure out on her own. That's the setup. The WNBA said, "Welcome to the big leagues." Then toss her into the deep end with no floaties, a target on her back, and 1,000 cameras watching every misstep. And the crazy part? She's handled it beautifully. But Kelsey Mitchell? She saw the cost. She saw the toll. She saw the setup. And she decided enough is enough. What made her comments hit even harder was the way she contrasted all that external noise with what's really going on behind the scenes. Because while the media loves painting Caitlin Clark as a diva or a disruption or a lightning rod, Kelsey pulled back the curtain. She said, "You're wrong. Caitlin's humble, grateful, chill, funny, respected, a great teammate. In fact, the entire Indiana Fever locker room, it's not the reality show the internet wants it to be. It's a family, a group of women who actually like each other, who root for each other, who understand what it means to build something from the ground up." And Kelsey made it very clear. The bond she has with Caitlin, Aaliyah Boston, Grace Berger, Lexi Hull, this matters more than narratives, more than stats, more than contracts. This is about culture. This is about legacy. She even said she'd take a pay cut to keep the core together. That's not PR spin. That's not empty talk. That's a player who believes in what they're building. And the message between the lines? Don't mess this up, WNBA. Because while the league's too busy playing image games, Kelsey Mitchell is focused on building something real, something that lasts, something that actually grows the game. But let's be clear, Kelsey wasn't just praising Caitlin. She was calling out the league's obsession with individual stardom at the expense of team chemistry. She was pointing to the Fever as a blueprint, a group of women from different backgrounds, different careers, different fan bases, all buying in, all trusting each other, all showing up despite the chaos. She was saying, we're not just here to be part of a hype train. We're here to win. Together. And if the league's smart, they'll lean into that story. Not just Clark, not just Boston, not just Mitchell, but the unit, the chemistry, the unfiltered, unpredictable magic that happens when real relationships take center stage. Because that's what fans want now. They're done with PR packages and cookie-cutter sound bites. They want emotion. They want mess. They want genuine connection. And Kelsey gave them that. She gave us truth. And with one interview, she flipped the entire conversation on its head. No longer is this about whether Caitlin Clark is ready for the league. It's about whether the league is ready for her, and for the team that's forming around her like a fortress. Because if the Fever stays intact, if they survive the media storms, the front office politics, the pressure, it's over for the rest of the league. This isn't a super team built in free agency. This is a homegrown dynasty in the making. Mitchell, Clark, Boston, Berger, all different flavors, but somehow the perfect recipe. And Kelsey knows it. That's why she's fighting for it. That's why she risked league wrath, to say what needed to be said. Because this isn't just about one player getting too much heat. It's about protecting the future. So here's the question no one wants to answer. What happens when the only people really looking out for Caitlin Clark are her teammates? What happens when they have to be the PR team, the security detail, and the voice of reason because the league won't step in? What happens when you build your brand on a player, then leave her to fend for herself when things get ugly? Kelsey Mitchell asked that question, and now we all have to sit with the answer. This is more than a headline, more than a mic drop, more than a viral quote. This is a moment, a pivot, a spotlight turned inward. Because if the WNBA doesn't change course, doesn't start protecting its players the way these women protect each other, then they'll lose the very culture they're pretending to promote. And that legacy, it won't be Caitlin Clark's to carry. It'll be Kelsey Mitchell's. Aaliyah Boston's. Everyone who spoke up showed up and said, we're not just here to be marketed. We're here to matter. So to the league, listen closely. Your players are speaking. They're asking for more than clicks. More than hype, more than setups. They want respect. They want truth. They want protection. And most of all, they want the freedom to build something real without being punished for it. Because Caitlin Clark didn't ask to be the center of a media circus. But she has shown she's strong enough to survive it. And lucky for her, she's got Kelsey Mitchell in her corner. And that's the real dynasty. So now it's your turn. What do you think? Is the WNBA setting players up for failure? Is the Fever the blueprint for a new kind of super team? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Subscribe for more drama, more truth bombs, and more of the real stories the league doesn't want you to hear. Because the game is changing. And these women, they're changing it together. We're deep in it now, past the headlines, past the media cycles, past the performative press conferences, and the league's empty "we support our players" statements. At this point, what Kelsey Mitchell said isn't just a comment. It's a fault line. And the league? It's standing right on top of it, pretending nothing's about to crack. Let's go back to the core of what Kelsey said, because it deserves to be heard without spin. She didn't say Caitlin Clark was overhyped. She didn't say she was a problem. She said what needed to be said: the system is rigged. And the person it's hurting most might just be the player the league claims to love the most. Caitlin Clark didn't ask for this level of attention. She earned it. Let's be clear about that. The numbers? Unmatched. The range? Unlimited. The fan engagement? Record-breaking. But that spotlight? It's a double-edged sword. And what happens when the league uses her to sell jerseys, tickets, and TV deals, but doesn't protect her when the knives come out? Kelsey saw it, and she called it. And look, We've all seen how things have played out since Caitlin entered the league. The physicality, the ridiculous officiating, the media spin, the constant, is she the villain or the victim narrative being milked on every debate show like it's scripted television. But behind the clickbait, there's an actual human being. A rookie, by the way. A rookie still finding her footing in a league that can't decide whether it wants to crown her or crucify her. And Kelsey? She's standing 10 toes down, saying, "We've got her. You won't break her. You won't break us." Let's talk about what that means. Because that's not just support, that's solidarity. That's veteran leadership. That's what happens when a locker room becomes a fortress instead of a firing squad. And honestly, that kind of bond is rare in pro sports. In most locker rooms, a star rookie with a massive spotlight entering mid-rebuild is a recipe for quiet resentment, tension, jealousy. We've seen it in every sport. But the fever? That's not what's happening. And you know why? Because Kelsey Mitchell won't let it. She's the culture keeper, the bridge between eras, the woman who stayed when the team was trash, who kept grinding when no one was watching, who gave her prime years to an organization still trying to figure itself out. And now that it's finally clicking, she's not letting media noise or league politics tear it apart. She's looking at Caitlin Clark and saying, "I see you. I got you. Don't let them twist this." And that kind of protection, that's not performative. That's earned. You can't fake that type of chemistry. You can't force that type of connection. You can't script that type of ride or die energy. It only happens when players trust each other and trust the mission. And let's not act like this is only about Caitlin. This is about how we treat black women in sports. This is about how we weaponize narratives against women who don't conform. This is about how we watch dynasties crumble because the league mismanages greatness when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, Grace Berger, Lexi Hull. These are franchise foundation players. They were already building something before Caitlin got here. They didn't flinch when the cameras came. They didn't resent the noise. They absorbed it, protected it, used it, because that's what grown women do. That's what real leaders do. And instead of the league amplifying that unity, they keep trying to slice it apart, one player at a time. Oh, Clark's too privileged. Oh, Mitchell must be jealous. Oh, Boston looks frustrated. Wrong. All wrong. The media keeps trying to build drama that doesn't exist inside that locker room. And what Kelsey's interview did, it snapped the narrative back into reality. She didn't just say Caitlin was being set up. She showed us what support looks like, what leadership sounds like, what team culture truly means when it's not manufactured for cameras. You want to talk about sacrifice? This woman said she'd take a pay cut to keep this roster together. Do you know how wild that is in today's game? When players are jumping ship for super teams, chasing the bag, building me first empires. Kelsey said, "I'll make less if it means we win more." That's legacy talk. That's a player who doesn't just want rings. She wants respect. And honestly, she should already have it. Because while everyone's focused on Clark's numbers, on Boston's double-doubles, on Lexi's clutch minutes, Kelsey Mitchell is the one gluing it all together, quietly, unshakably. And now that she's spoken up, you better believe people are listening. The WNBA might want to pretend this was just a nice little feel-good interview, but this was a declaration of war on the league's broken system. And if they're smart, they'll listen, because what Kelsey laid out isn't just a hot take. It's a roadmap, a blueprint for how to build greatness. You don't do it by chasing stars. You do it by cultivating culture. You don't protect your lead by silencing players. You protect it by amplifying the voices who've been there since day one. And if you've got veterans like Mitchell telling you something's not right, you don't bury it. You investigate it. You fix it. You learn from it. Because that kind of insight, it's rare. It's powerful. It's a gift. And if you ignore it, you don't deserve the dynasty that's rising right under your nose. So, yeah, Kelsey Mitchell exposed the league. Not because she wanted to start drama, but because she wants this league to succeed. She wants her team to succeed. She wants Caitlin Clark to thrive without being eaten alive by the very system that needs her the most. And that right there, that's not just teammate behavior. That's trailblazer behavior. That's how you build something bigger than a season. That's how you build a legacy. So to the league, don't fumble this. You've got something special happening in Indiana. Not just talent, but chemistry, authenticity, leadership. Protect it, promote it, and for once, listen. At this point, you can't just look at her interview and see it as a standalone quote. No, this was a controlled detonation. Kelsey didn't just toss out a headline to stir things up. She didn't go on a rant. She didn't make it about herself. She sat there calmly, intentionally, and said something so loaded, so explosive, that the lead should have cleared the runway. Caitlin Clark was set up. 7 words, 1 mic drop, endless fallout. And what did the league do? Not a damn thing. No clarification. No statement. No context. Because they can't respond to something they're still trying to pretend didn't happen. But let's not get it twisted. We all saw it happen. And you know who else saw it? Every other WNBA player with a front row seat to the chaos. They may not be saying it publicly yet, but you can feel the shift, the whispered conversations in locker rooms, the group chats lighting up after that interview dropped, the subtle side eyes during media availability. The culture war inside the league is boiling over. You got one side trying to maintain this clean, sponsor-friendly, drama-free, idealistic version of what women's basketball should look like, and the other side saying, nah, we're real people, and we're tired of being managed. Caitlin Clark has become the lightning rod at the center of this, not because she wanted to be, but because the league made her the face, and then left her alone in the fire. And now, Kelsey Mitchell is calling out everyone who lit the match. Let's talk about the setup she's referring to, because this isn't just some metaphorical grievance. It's real, tactical, ongoing. Look at how Clark has been officiated, how she's been guarded, how she's been targeted. Rookie or not, she's drawing more contact than a UFC fighter and barely getting a whistle. You think that an accident? Now layer in the media coverage, the flip-flopping narratives, the endless speculation about whether she's liked by her teammates, whether she's earned her spot, whether she deserves the hype. And where's the league in all this? Nowhere. They use her name to sell out arenas, boost ratings, and hit sponsorship targets, and then left her to eat elbows and headline think pieces about whether she's ruining the league before she's even played 20 games. That's the setup. And Kelsey Mitchell saw it from day one. But instead of sitting back and letting Clark become a cautionary tale, she stepped in and said, not on my watch. And don't miss the nuance here. Kelsey didn't just defend Caitlin. She defended the future of women's basketball. Because what she said wasn't just about one player being set up. It was about how the league handles greatness, especially female greatness, especially young, high-profile, divisive greatness. She was asking the question that no one in the league office seems brave enough to answer. Why do we sabotage the very women we should be protecting? Think about it. Anytime a woman in sports becomes too visible, too confident, too successful, it gets weird. The criticism gets louder. The standards shift. The rules change. And it's not just about race. It's not just about fame. It's not just about the pressure of a rising star. It's about control. Because Caitlin Clark doesn't fit the mold. And instead of adjusting the system to accommodate this generational moment, the league keeps trying to tame it, bend it, shrink it, frame it. Kelsey Mitchell? She's not having it. She sees what's possible if the league gets out of its own way. If they stop trying to micromanage the momentum and just let it grow organically. You've got this perfect storm brewing in Indiana. Clark's shot-making, Boston's dominance, Hull's hustle, Berger's IQ, and Kelsey's underrated, underappreciated. Under the radar leadership holding it all together. That's not just a good team. That's a potential legacy. And what does Kelsey do with that? She says she'd take less money to keep it alive. In an era where players are demanding max contracts and chasing short-term bags, she's prioritizing longevity over dollars. She's saying, I'd rather win with this squad than cash out somewhere else. That's culture. That's heart. That's the future. And what's wild is This whole story, this whole shift in how we talk about women's basketball, it all stemmed from one thing: a veteran choosing truth over comfort. Most people would have played it safe, stuck to the script, deflected. Kelsey did the opposite. She leaned into the mess. She acknowledged the complexity. She embraced the controversy and still managed to center it around unity. Because here's the kicker. The interview wasn't bitter. It wasn't angry. It was hopeful. She wasn't dragging the league. She was begging it to do better, to protect the players it promotes, to value the bonds that actually build champions, to stop chasing headlines and start fostering healthier environments. Because what's happening in Indiana isn't a fluke. It's not luck. It's intention. It's the product of players who are willing to fight for each other. And that fight, it starts with honesty. Kelsey told the truth. And now, everyone else has a choice. Keep pretending the system works, or start building one that actually does. Because the eyes are on them now. On the league. On the media. On every executive who profited off Caitlin Clark's popularity without ever stopping to ask, are we protecting her? Are we supporting her? Kelsey Mitchell asked that question. She asked it for Caitlin, for the Fever, for the league. And now, she's waiting for an answer. See, when Kelsey Mitchell said what she said, it didn't just send shockwaves to the WNBA. It sent a ripple across every women's sports league. Because let's face it, this wasn't just about Caitlin Clark. It wasn't even just about the Fever. This was a moment of reckoning for how institutions treat their stars once they start outshining the system built to contain them. And Kelsey, she put the entire operation on notice with one calm, deliberate statement. That's what makes this so powerful. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't point fingers. She just told the truth. And the truth hit harder than anything the league's spin team could have scripted. Because when she said Caitlin Clark was set up, what she really meant was, you handed this girl the spotlight, the expectations, the pressure, and none of the support. You hyped her to the moon, then sent her into hostile environments with no protection. You made her a storyline, not a person. And then you turn around and wonder why the locker room dynamic felt tense. But Kelsey's been around. She's played through losing seasons. She's endured the lack of media coverage, the empty arenas, the nobody cares about women's sports nonsense. She earned her leadership stripes through years of silence, sacrifice, and steady performance. So when she says Caitlin is humble, believe her. When she says the Fever has real chemistry, believe her. When she says something's off with how the league is handling its golden girl, you better believe every word. Because Kelsey's not just defending a teammate. She's defending what they're building. She sees a team on the cusp of greatness, and a league fumbling the chance to nurture it. And that's the tragedy here. Caitlin Clark is good for the league, if the league learns to get out of its own way. But right now, it's walking a dangerous line between promotion and exploitation, between marketing and manipulation, between growing the game and breaking the people growing it. And Kelsey Mitchell, she's saying, not here, not with us. So yeah, the quote made waves. But the real aftershock is this. We finally heard a veteran say, I see the game behind the game, and I'm not playing along anymore. And now, you can't unhear it. So, let's keep the conversation going. Did Kelsey Mitchell just shift the power dynamic in the league? Is this the start of something bigger? Players taking the narrative back together? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tap that subscribe button. And get ready, because if this is what Kelsey's saying out loud, you better believe more truth is coming.